Okay, buenos Diaz. Welcome to Mop Projects in Sydney. We're here today to talk to Alex Wisser. How are you doing?
We're good, thank you.
That's all right. We're here to talk to Alex about his photographic exhibition called Blank Canvas. So maybe the good place to start is, what is Blank Canvas about?
Well, Blank Canvas was an idea I came up with when I was photographing options for the community papers. Basically, you know, it's a job I didn't like very much originally. And, you know, you had to give up a Saturday and go out and basically photograph the same thing every day. It's just people buying houses, which is, something I didn't like. But then I began to notice the houses that they were selling. And you know, this was along what I came to call the line of gentrification. So inner west, but outer inner west now. So we're looking at like Concord and Berwick, and Botany, and which
so they're older houses.
Yeah, they're older houses, and basically, when I decided, you know, to make it into a project, I thought, you know, well, houses that people have lived in for over 30 years. Without renovating. So you have all the levels of, you know, and all of the decades of decoration, you know, laid one on top of the other. And it was just, you know, a lot of it was just about being fascinated by the choices people made in their homes, you know. They decided.
What they keep a table like that, and the white goods will change, and the curtains might be old. Knickknacks and
well, this was actually quite a, you know, this one was, so this, you know, the floor covering, so this old carpet here, you know, which I would say is probably about the 70s, and 80s, and then this older 50s, I think, style paint job here, and then, you know, who knows when this, you know, what's
the
lace, you know, which is probably just, you know, one of these cheap sort of synthetic laces that they make now, which is, you know, so.
And there's lace here too, with the light coming through.
Yeah, well, and this was another thing that I sort of learned with using larger format, was that I would take these photographs, you know, looking generally at them, and then when you bring them home and you open them up, you begin to see all of this detail that you never saw, and it's strange, but you never would have known it was there. So, you know, which is the Roland Barthes talks about that.
And the whole crack in the wall. I keep coming here. It's about the third time I was at your opening. Fantastic night, and I've come back twice now, and you do discover shadows and the stove there and details. So, okay, we'll move on to the next one. Okay, now we've got the second photograph, large format photograph. This was incredibly popular at the opening, mainly because of a couple of things. The mirror that reflects the wallpaper, and here the mirror again reflecting this vertical wallpaper. I asked you, I think, did you position the angle to catch that?
No, I didn't. No. I never touched anything in somebody else's house. I'm not going to go around rearranging it. You know, so I really did want to catch, you know, the way that other people. The work is all about other people's decisions.
Okay.
So it's all about other people's cultural decisions and how they. So, you know, and this is somebody else's aesthetic. You know, you can see the carpet, the wallpaper, the chair. They all have the same color palette. You know, someone's done this very intentionally. It's a very restrained, and all of the color palettes tend to be very restrained. You know, there are, you know, the one or two colors sometimes. Sometimes you use, you know, when I first started conceiving the project, when I was still just looking and I wasn't taking photographs. I just started to notice how singular some of the things people were doing with it. And you know, this photograph was, I think it was that mirror that kind of inspired me. Somebody who likes order, you know, really, you know, those lines are very austere and very, you know, clean, sort of plain. And this is one of those little fibro add-ons to the back, you know, like a really chintzy little room, really. But you know, this little corner it has this kind of classic.
This might have been a refuge or something, just to sit there?
No, see, but I don't know anything about them, and I don't make assumptions about them either. I ask those same questions that you ask, you know, and the questions, I think the photographs ask those questions too, but I don't answer. You know, I mean, I think that, you know, the gaze that I'm attempting to achieve is somewhat anthropological, but the method is not anthropological, and so that I'm not after knowledge about people. I just simply want to capture something about the distance in my relationship to them. So my questioning, my wondering about who they are. That's kind of the relationship. For me, I think photography is always, not just about the subject. It's not just about the photographer. It's always about the relationship between those two. It's always about how the photographer relates to the subject. And often, if it's a person, for instance, you will get whether that person trusts you, whether that person is put off by you. You will. That's what you'll capture.
So a portrait of the subject is very much a self-portrait of the photographer.
Well, yeah, but I don't like that because it divides it. It's actually about the between of those two things. It's not a self-portrait. This is not about me.
It's a third thing.
Yeah, I frame this in such a way that there's very little in terms of my subjectivity, but it's still my questions. I'm still asking the questions. I'm still wondering about.
You are repeating this corner effect at the top of the three I can see.
Well, these two. So the green one, the shape, the pictorial shape of photograph is very similar.
Yeah.
Whereas with the white one, it flattens because you'll see that.
Yeah. We should move to the white.
Let's go to the white one. Yeah.
Okay. So now we're at the white one. Beautiful Ming vase, imitation Ming vase.
Oh, I think so.
Or French, I don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
Family portraits.
It is Chinese, so there's no Chinese
technology. Now we have family portraits appearing, so you actually see who the people were, which you can't help but now perhaps speculate on the narrative or get clues. I mean,
and those were things that I didn't look at very closely at the time. I mean, I just take the very general shot, and then you start to see these things. You see the quality. You can sort of work out when the photos were taken in the 80s, and these ones would probably be a little bit earlier even. There's a little owners thing. That was the right thing to find. This is owners in it. The sense of home ownership. This flowery thing, but with this very non-objective pillow cutting a hole in the middle of it.
What about this mirror?
I know.
How did you do that?
That's just a light. So in order to be able to expose this, I had to blow that, and because there was so much light coming out of there, relatively less light. Yeah, so this was really quite fun. I mean, the way they used the pegboard as a backing, it's gridded, it's quite modernist in a way, but it also, all of this, this was the sort of house I was looking at when I was thinking, wow, these are, there's something really contemporary about this too, there's really something so singular, about what these people are doing, that nobody else has a living room like that. But there's also the point, and this one makes it quite well, that these are houses that have been arranged for people to come in and look at. So they present it. So people have taken their own homes and they've opened them to the public for the first time ever, and they presented them to them. So this is a presented thing. I don't know how many people were otherwise.
So if the local priest was coming for a Sunday, cup of tea, biscuits. See, this is how they.
I'm assuming again. This is an assumption. I can only ask the question. The photograph doesn't answer.
Okay. So we've got 2 more to go. So
yeah, let's go.
Okay, this is the 4th photograph of Alex's showing blank canvas, and now we've lost that corner. These are sort of more front-on stretched to a wall, and using doorways with a period.
Yeah, so this one, I don't know, this was one of the first ones that I began to notice, the other impulse in these photos, or one of the other impulses in these photographs was my wondering what it would have been like to live in them, what's the experience of living in them. And so, just the sheer visual density of some of these places. And the next one is even better example, but this one's quite nice. That, what it's like to live in somewhere that, that is just covered on every surface with a design or a pattern, and then the color is so rich. And so, so I think that's what had a lot to do with what this photograph was that kind of that sense. It's a very small sort of enclosed area here. There is this sort of, this is one of the ones, and you see the differences between way people. So this is one of the ones that really appeals more to an aristocratic taste.
Well, I mean, the wallpaper is beautifully embossed.
Yeah.
I mean, this is my favourite wallpaper. I mean, I'm just looking at a passage of this beautiful wallpaper, it's highly detailed. Then there's a blur And there's a kind of blue,
So
edges.
exactly. So that's the other side of the hallway, and I just put that so close to the camera that and it collapses the space as well, which is quite. So I mean, you can talk about that, but also I think that with aristocratic taste, it doesn't matter if it's well done. It's still aristocratic taste. So some people want that. You know, they think that they'll be comfortable in that. I mean, I'm assuming, you know, but that's what I'm reading into the way that is they're looking at feeling as though they've achieved some level of status, I suppose, or you know, if the house looks a little bit like the Queen might have slept there one night on her travels to. Despite the fact,
when the Governor General's house was destroyed by fire, she had to be billeted at home in Narrow London. For a night.
And is that house now a museum?
We go to the last one? Okay, this was the last one, number 5. I actually took a photograph of a figure because she was wearing, a friend of mine was wearing a bright green jacket, and I just so tell us about this, because this is another, people were just, interacting with it, really heavily, so.
Well, this is, I think, of the series, this is probably my favorite. This is the one I think that I got the closest to what I wanted. You know, I mean, there's something just so unique about this person's, the way that they've done this. I mean, and like behind the project is also the notion of kitsch, which for people from an art background, that notion is it's an abstraction paste over other people's lives. We call the things that they buy and they decorate their houses with and they live amongst. We call that kitsch. And it's all one big, bland, amorphous, abstract phenomenon. Yeah, it is definitely. And I do understand why that happens, but it also does buttress a certain kind of snobism. So for me, I really wanted to kind of look at and take seriously, the way that people actually, rendered these anonymous objects of mass production personal by living in it. It wasn't any great act of heroism. By living in it and decorating their house in it. So somebody lived in. This is a very difficult room. I mean, I can't imagine sleeping a comfortable night in that room. It's so severe. And yet, with all the severity of the green and the red and these lines, there's this soft, flowery bed, with the native fauna. That's native, isn't it? Those.
They're kind of.
Yeah, who can tell these days? But what really struck me was, and I was joking on the night, and only half joking, that this person is pretty brilliant because she's taken these hard-edged rectilinear abstractions, which are dealing with illusory space and everything, and then she's framed them with this green organic form. So, you have this sort of science and nature thing going on with a crucifix. And the room has that kind of emotional density of a crucifix. It really does look like the room of and you could take that up. And I would still think, that's some woman who has lived a very, a very passionately religious life, and probably a very severe one as well,
And these are angel cherubs in the lamp.
Yeah. Are they? Or are they just cherubs? I mean, I don't think they're angel cherubs. They're just
Italianate little cherubs.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And again, those are details that I notice only after taking the photo.
Well, thanks, Alex. That's fascinating. And you had a great opening. Well done.
Thanks, Steve.
All right. So, adios. Stay tuned next week when we will meet another arts practitioner. A beautiful arts practitioner. And we'll talk some more, so adios. Oh, you waved too. That's friendly. That was good.